Hello, and welcome to the next edition of the Snowflake Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dan. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm recording this on Sunday, June 9th at around 8:30. And I'm going to talk about the great and amazing Toronto Raptors wins over the past 2 days. Woo! Let's go, baby! They're bringing the ship. They're bringing the Larry O'Brien Championship to Canada, and it's gonna be a great thing to see. Hopefully, I mean, fingers crossed, anything can happen. Um, but I recorded last Tuesday before Game 3, so I'm gonna kind of go into those two games. And if you just haven't heard, Kevin Durant practiced today and is listed questionable. So I'm gonna go a little into that as well. And then talk about the Brooklyn Nets or trade to the Atlanta Hawks earlier this week. Um, and yeah, so let's get into it. So Game 3 was Wednesday night, and the Toronto Raptors beat the Golden State Warriors, 109 or 123 to 109. This game was very strange since Golden State didn't have a lot of their players. They had no KD, no Clay, and Looney. Though Clay suited up and was still active, but he didn't play at all. Um, and I mean, the NBA shoot around before, they were just like, if Toronto doesn't win this game, they should just, roll over and die. Like, they have no right to winning this series if all these players are hurt. Plus, like, Iggy's playing injured. And so if they don't win that game, don't they don't deserve to win the title. Anyway, so an overall game, Danny Green had a fantastic game. Was lights out from three. He was 6 of 10. Kyle Lowry was awesome as well, scoring 23 points and 9 assists as well. Um, Golden State's defense was pretty trash, especially so it's like trash in the first quarter, then pretty good in the second, then trash again, like in the third. Um, Especially on the pick and roll. So I think they started Cousins and they put in Bogut. But there were so many plays where they wouldn't even really double on like Kawhi, but then Kawhi would just bounce passes to Gasol or Ibaka, and they would just roll them in. Pretty much seemed like whenever. Um, and game 3 too, they went to Marcus Gasol super early and just like ISO'd him with Cousins, and like Gasol just went to town on him. I think they had to pull. They didn't play him as much. I got the box score here. Let's scroll down. So Cousins only played 15 minutes that game. Oh wait, no, this is game 4. This is like, so like the tabs. I had the game 4 ahead of the game 3, which was smart move by me. Way to go. Pull. So Cousins only played 20 minutes this game, and Bogut played 21. And Cousins even only played 15 in Game 4 too, so he was pretty much out of that game as well. But yeah, they pretty much just took him out of the game because he couldn't keep up with Gasol. Anyways, going to this game in general, so Steph Curry in the first half was unbelievable. He scored 25 points, and the other guys scored a total of 27 points. They ended up with 52 in the first half. Kind of reminded me last year when LeBron scored 51 points in Game 1 and almost willed his team to a win by himself. If it wasn't for that infamous J.R. Smith blunder, they could have pulled it off. I mean, they would have if he just went up and scored the layup. Now, I don't think that team wins another game in that series because their talent was so depleted when Kyrie Irving was traded. But anyways, Steph's first half and the entire game was pretty much a one-man show. So Toronto was winning the game I want to say handily in the first quarter. Well, I mean, they were up by 7, so actually pretty well. And then Golden State kept it close, and they just kind of stalled at the end of the second, which allowed Golden State to kind of stay within the game. And going into halftime, everyone knows that the Golden State Warriors is one of the most deadly teams in NBA history. coming out of that third quarter. You saw that in game two, um, where they went on an 18-0 run to pretty much finish that game off in the middle of the third quarter. Um, but it, but Toronto was actually able to outscore them, which was great. It was awesome. And there's one there's one play at the end of the third that just really stood out to me. So they so Toronto has the ball and they do a pick and roll. I think with I forget who the center was on the floor, either Ibaka or Gasol, and Jordan Bell switches on Lowry, and Kyle drove to the hoop and Jordan Bell rejected him at the rim and Kawhi, I think he hit it off the backboard, like it was like a crazy block. And Kawhi hustled for the long rebound. Now with the shot clock running out, Danny Green basically just had to chuck it. He couldn't really gather or collect the ball at any point. And it just goes in, putting them up by three, and he gives a little like the 3-point swag, putting the three fingers up in the air. But I was just laughing hysterically since it seemed like the early dagger in the game, and it was such a ridiculous shot, like going up by 16. The fourth quarter was like about to start, like they weren't coming back from that. Anyways, like I said earlier, Steph Curry played at an MVP level. He beat his personal best for most points in a playoff game with 47. Like that's wild. He scored 25 of those in the first half. So he scored 22 in the second. So he's still shooting. He's still pretty much carrying his team. And it was a really well-balanced attack from the Raptors. All their starters scored in double figures. The entire Raptors team shot 44.7% from three and only missed one free throw in the entire game. The Warriors really missed Klay's defense, especially his switchability, and he provides so much effort on both ends of the floor. And with him out, though, I was kind of shocked that the Raptors didn't bring out the box and one strategy again. Like, with their remaining players, Iggy is a solid 3-point shooter, and Quinn Cook is streaky and could get hot sometimes. But I'm fine with them shooting from there as long as someone is closing them out. Like, the problem in that Game 2 one, where Andre Iguodala sinks that shot, is no one's near him. No one's near him, no one's, like, going out to him, so of course he's going to make that. And like I said, last podcast, like, he's a decent free throw or 3-point shooter. Like, he shoots average, so I mean he can make it. He's just not gonna shoot at a high clip. But anyway, so I mean that box and one works so well against just like a Steph and non-shooters team. But I assume that Kerr planned for it during their practices. And honestly, you don't see that defense in any scenario outside of like high school or middle school. So maybe Nick Nurse was just kind of scared to bring it out. But I mean, when you're watching this game and you're seeing it, like, it was all Steph. Like, he scored so many points by himself. Like, if he wasn't scoring, he was creating as well. I don't have his assists. 7 assists, so like a ton of assists too. He's getting to the free throw line. Like, he's doing everything. So I don't understand why you like put Fred VanVleet in the game. Just lock him down, and limit to him as much as possible. What was even weirder too was that they used his defense for a bit in Game 4. Though I think they only did it when Klay was off the court. It really doesn't work when he's there because he's just gonna be open. He's just gonna shoot it. So yeah, I wish I kind of saw that more. I mean, they still ended up winning. But yeah, anyway, so Serge Ibaka played awesome, especially on defense. He had 6 blocks, and I love the Jeff Van Gundy, Serge Ibaka, or yeah, Ibaka bit. So what I personally love to do is just scream like blocka, like a like Waka whenever he gets a block. It's just fun. It just gets me pumped. So yeah, great game by Serge, the Serge protector. Let's go, let's get it. And I was slightly worried throughout this game until the Warriors pulled all their starters. As a fan of the Buffalo Bills and honestly the Raptors, you have to assume the worst will happen. Like LeBron's backboard shot, 18-year playoff drought for the Bills, and just going back to LeBron's absolute dominance of Toronto over the past 5 years. there's a lot of misery and a lot of bad things can happen, at the end of the game. Um, and then, so the referees I thought were pretty bad this game. I think maybe it's in this basketball reference thing, but I think it was Scott Foster. It should be on here. Oh no. Okay, it was Mark Davis, Kane Fitzgerald, and David Guthrie. Oh no, game two. So game two had Ed Malloy and Scott Foster, which people do not like. Even though Scott Foster, I think, is ranked very high. The Rockets just hate hate him. Um, but yeah, there were a lot of sketchy calls this game though. There was a goaltending block on a Draymond Green layup that clearly hit the backboard, but there was also like a flaky charge that they called on Kawhi where it seemed like he barely touched Draymond, so like it went both ways. I would say though it seemed like the Raptors were favored with those calls, but like they didn't swing this game. Like I think they won by 14, so um like there's not like one play you can go back to and be like this changed the outcome or some stupid shit like that. Um but I mean like outside of those plays there's just still a ton of plays that happen where you're just like what the fuck were they thinking? Um So I mean, and game two was kind of sketchy too. Um, but yeah, that kind of wraps up game three. Great win for the Toronto Raptors. And so going into game four, Toronto won that as well, 105-92. Um, and before this game started, Clay was cleared to play as well as Kevon Looney. And I watched this game with some of my friends, and was kind of shocked to see Looney out there. Like I didn't hear about the news before the game was started, and like they said he broke his collarbone in game two. But I guess he got a second look and they cleared him for this game. It just seemed very bizarre since he was ruled out for the rest of the playoffs. But when you look back, he only misses one complete game. Like he misses half. He misses half of game two, all of game three, and then comes back in game four. And let's see, he played a decent amount of minutes, like 20 minutes or so. I guess that's not too big. Um, it was just weird. Their medical staff right now seems to not really know what they're doing. Um, and like I was talking to my friend who's like a huge Raptors fan, and uh, he said that they have a very high turnaround rate in that department for the Warriors. Um, I mean, just look at I mean, not the turnaround rate, but just look at their record so far. Like they thought Durant's injury was mild, but he missed about a month or so. Um, they thought Looney's was pretty severe, but he only missed one game. Um, the Cousins injury was pretty strange as well. He only missed a month and a half of basketball on a torn quad, but from I guess the reports, he tried really hard to get back. So I mean, props to him. Um, but I just still like I figured if you tore a quad or like a muscle at all, you'd have to miss at least 3 months or something. Like those are, I mean, I guess like an ACL or MCL is way more important because it's like in your knee when like a quad is just like above your knee. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so I guess I can't really judge on these things, but they're definitely don't have a good tenure so far. Um, it's also very weird that the best basketball team doesn't have the best medical staff, or at least like one of the top ones. It could be that the personnel that work there don't get paid well enough to afford the Bay Area, but pretty sure the higher up positions have to be doctors or like have a doctorate degree. So I imagine they get paid pretty handsomely. Though even if you get paid six figures in Silicon Valley, like you probably still can't afford a home. So it's outrageous. Anyways, back to the actual game. The first quarter, it looked like Golden State was in complete control. Um, Even though it was a pretty low-scoring affair, and I don't think they scored in the first like 3 minutes or so. Um, it seemed like their whole team was involved in the offensive scheme, which was a complete 180 from Game 3 on Wednesday night. Um, And on the other hand, the Raptors themselves were just a one-man wrecking crew. So the roles pretty much flipped, at least in the first quarter. So Kawhi Leonard scored 14 out of Toronto's 17 points in the first quarter. So outside of Kawhi, they only scored 3 points. It was a made free throw from Siakam and a layup from Kyle Lowry. So not good. But even though they looked awful, they kept within a striking distance. I think they were only down by 6 at that point. Going into the second quarter, Ibaka was able to carry the load pretty much by himself with Leonard sitting out for the first 5 minutes. I think he had 6 points or so, maybe more. With both Leonard and Lowry off the floor, Golden State really has to win these minutes if they want to come back in the series. Granted, they started the second half with Klay, Cousins, and the reserves, so they didn't really have their best lineup for pretty much half the quarter either. I think Kerr was trying to rest Curry as long as he could since he carried such a heavy load 2 days ago, and Toronto was really pushing the pace this game. Like, they were going full tilt from the whistle. I loved every minute of it. It was ingenious move by Nick Nurse. For the second half of the second quarter, nothing really changed from a lead standpoint. The Warriors didn't really pull away, but the Raptors also didn't really come much closer. Turned to a 4-point game at this point. Now, going into halftime, I was pretty nervous about the Warriors' lead. Even though in Game 3, the Raptors actually outscored the Warriors in the third quarter, 36-31. But they didn't have Klay or Looney in that game. And also, don't shy away from Looney. He's crazy underrated. He's had some great flashes this postseason. And he's pretty much the prime example of what centers will be for the next 10 years or so. Athletic enough to defend smaller guards, but big enough to protect the rim when needed. Surely the Warriors would have some scheme to widen their lead and even up the series. Like they're so infamous for this. Their third quarter, spurts. That's when they win. They kill teams, and then the fourth quarter is just pretty much useless. However, that did not happen. Kawhi started the quarter with a 3, and then stole the ball from Draymond on the next possession, and then scored another 3 to take a 2-point lead. Kawhi's dominance in this quarter, as well, was out of this world. Like, gaudy stats. He ended up with 17 in the quarter, but unlike the first quarter, the team scored a total of 37 points, so they didn't just score 3, they scored 20. And that's not too far away from the 36 points they got in Game 3, but a combination of Toronto's relentless defense and Golden State's tiredness really wore them down. Wore down the Warriors. So Golden State only scored 21 points in the third quarter. So that was a 16-point swing in favor of the Raptors, and they took a 12-point lead into the fourth quarter. Forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, so I'm just going back to... I just love the way Nick Nurse wanted to play this game from the get-go, because that paid dividends in the second half. They played a fast-paced tempo from the very start. They played a lot of Lowry, Fred VanVleet combos to have two true point guards to push the ball up the floor. That led to Steph getting really tired, and his threes were getting short due to his exhaustion, and no one else really picked up the slack. So shout out to Nick Nurse. You go NN with your black hat, your guitar, and your swagger. Woo! Okay. Now, when you watch any Golden State game, there's always a fear that they will come back. They can just pour it on. Klay was healthy this game, so it's like Steph or Klay could get hot. Both of them can get hot. You never know. However, they never really got back into this game. There was I think it was a clear path foul they didn't call, but they were looking. I think Siakam got foul when he was trying to pass the ball to Lowry, and Lowry would have had like an open break for a layup. But I think they ruled that he didn't pass it, and I think like Iguodala was like ahead of Siakam. I don't know. It was Like I think they got the right call on that one. Not calling Kafka. But anyway, so this is when like Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson Mark Jackson. They finally started saying how like tired they looked because they were exhausted, and they're like, this is kind of like a good timeout for the Warriors because they just look dead. Um, but I mean, they looked dead like third quarter too. Uh, anyway, so Toronto never really lost their double-digit lead, and they pulled out the victory, going up 3-1, going back to Scotiabank Arena. Jurassic Park's gonna be lit. So it's crazy to say this, but the Raptors totally out-warriored the Warriors this game. They played at a very fast pace and lit up the third quarter. Again, props to Nurse and the team to going at them full tilt off of one day's rest, and after Steph's very demanding workload in Game 3. Game 4s are so important when there is a 2-1 split between the teams. If the team leading goes up 3-1, the series is pretty much wrapped up at this point. Outside of the Cavs championship in 2016, no one else has come back from a 3-1 to win the finals. Now, if the team trailing ties the game 2 series apiece, then you're back at ground zero, and it becomes a best of 3 series. So getting that 3 win, it hopefully is very possible that the Raptors win one more game and will be the 2019 NBA champions. But anyway, so Zach Lowe kind of touched on this in his like super deep analysis, like in the wee hours of Saturday morning. I think it came out like 7:55 a.m. But he's on the West Coast. I think that was East Coast time, so it was like 4. But anyway, so I think it said on there that Toronto was much more stressed going into Game 4 against the Sixers than they were at any other point in these playoffs. If you don't remember that game, it was pretty back and forth the whole way, and Kawhi hit a big free to go up by 4 to pretty much seal the deal. Now, as a Raptors fan, I can attest that my heart rate was a lot higher during like that series. That game, it was definitely higher for Game 7. And that was just more as the second round, and if they fell, and for that Game 4, if they fell 3-1, they easily lose that series, and Kawhi bowls for LA on July 1st. And Game 7 it was just like, it's the same outcome, but it's like a different, I guess it's just the feeling of a Game 7 is just, it's just way more tense. The basketball night game was just bad too. Like Kawhi putting up 39 shots. The Sixers not scoring a point in the first 6 minutes or something like. Right, so going into the Bucks series, I wasn't too stressed, which was kind of weird since they fell down 2-0. However, that team never won a playoff series until this year, and Toronto has played and won numerous series over the past 5 years. I mean, I guess they only won since the past 3 years, but they've been in the playoffs the past 5. Plus, the Bucks only won their 2 home games. As they always say, a series doesn't start until the road team wins. So that didn't start until Game 5 of that series, and I was living high. But going into the Warriors series, I kind of felt that whatever the outcome would be, I would have been satisfied with it. Like, they made their first finals this year, and if they lost, they would have lost to a dynasty and one of the best teams in NBA history. If they won, that would be awesome as well. And they're definitely in good position to do that now. However, I don't think the outcome of this series will affect Kawhi's decision to either play in LA or Toronto. So if the Raptors do win this series, Kawhi can easily just leave, and no one in Toronto would boo him when he returns to Scotiabank. There would be no hard feelings. First off, Canadians are super nice. They can't trash talk if their life depends on it. There was a good Jimmy Kimmel bit that they went to Raptors fans, and they were just like, "Oh, trash talk the Warrior fans now, or the Warriors," And like a ton of them just said no. They're just like, we're not doing that. And then when they tried, it was just like way too nice and way too polite. Um, so they're gonna have any ill will against him if he leaves, especially if they win. Like people are saying they'll erect a statue of him, like retire his number, like for one season. Um, but like, so he never wanted to play in Toronto, and he's wanted to play in LA since early last year, like before he got traded. Um, Now, say if they blow this lead and they lose the series, it might that might change his mind on where he goes. But it'll depend on how they lose the series. So if he averages 40 points a game and they lose because no one else steps up, like Lowry doesn't get going, Siakam misses like a ton of threes or something, he could just leave for the Clippers, and you could somewhat argue that their team would be better than the Raptors if they had Kawhi. Um, I like had so when I was like planning this, I was just like the Clippers can't be better. I mean, they lost in the first round, but they lost the Warriors and they went six with them with Kevin Durant. Um, but like the Clippers definitely do have more potential with their younger role players already contributing at a high level. Like if you look at their rookies, Shamit and SGA, like they're incredible. Um, and you look at the Raptors core, you got Gasol and you got Lowry, who are both like 34 or 35. And I'm pretty sure Kawhi is 26, 27, something like that. Now, say he doesn't play well and they lose. He might blame it on himself for not winning the championship and maybe do like a short-term deal to line up with Lowry and Gasol's contracts. Um, it might just remind him of that 2012 loss to the Miami Heat. Um, was it 12? I think it was 12. I could be wrong. It could have been 20, because I think they won in 2013. No, they won in 2014, so 2013. That's when they lost to the Heat. Um, and he might just want to, re-up, go at it one more time, do that one-on-one deal. But honestly, it's so hard to gauge what he's thinking. So it's pretty much a crapshoot either way. Like he bought property in Toronto, he's got property in San Diego. Like I don't know, it's so weird. Honestly, it's hard to see where anyone's going. Like even Kevin Durant. Like people keep saying he's going to the Knicks, but he could honestly just resign and just be like, "What? No way." Um. Anyways, so going into Kevin Durant, so he did practice today on Sunday, and he will be listed as questionable for tomorrow's Game 5 in Toronto. And if he plays, he could swing this series in their favor. He's the best player in the world right now this season. Like Kawhi Leonard has been playing amazing this series. It's been one of the best, or not the series, these playoffs. But like Kevin Durant throughout the regular season. Outside of, scratch that, never mind, because Giannis and Harden had greater seasons. But like, who is the best player in the world? Just like an accumulation of all their stats, all their awards and stuff. It's now Kevin Durant, not LeBron James anymore. Anyways, so if he does play, he could become their primary scorer and give some Steph some rest, or at least not running around trying to find a three as much. On the defensive side, he could guard Kawhi and let Iggy either sit or sag off of some non-shooter. And then that would allow Clay to bully Lowry and Draymond to lock down on Siakam, sag off him as well, play kind of that like free safety role where he's just kind of roaming, looking for like blocks and steals. I still like the Raptors' odds to win this thing, even with Durant on the floor, because all they have to do is win one game, and they play two of them in Toronto. And they beat the Warriors in both games in the regular season when they had Durant. Though I think one of those games they did not have Steph and Draymond, and that game went to overtime. So, yeah. Anyways, going to KD's availability. I think I read something that the Warriors organization is unhappy that Durant hasn't come back yet from his injury. Um, like Cousins worked really hard to come back from his. Props to him. Iggy has been fighting through the pain. Looney and Clay as well. Um, but I don't know. He's gonna be a free agent soon, in less than a month. Like he doesn't want to re-aggravate that injury that might cost him millions of dollars. Granted, even if he gets injured more, I guarantee you New York's gonna offer him a max no matter what. Like he could be injured all next year and they'll still give him a max. Because they really don't have any other options. Um, but yeah, so plus the whole media has been saying that the Warriors have been more fun without KD, that they don't need him. So maybe he just doesn't want to come back. Like he doesn't want to play with these guys. I also find it very strange. I don't know what's up with this, but he's not like sitting on the court. Like he's sitting. He went to Toronto. He's in the locker room. Like he like comes out and like high fives his teammates, being a good teammate. Like after the game. But why is he not like in a suit on the floor? Like that just seems really strange to me. Um, and maybe he secretly wants them to lose, just to be like, see guys, you didn't need me, and then just bolt for New York, like. Or maybe he resigns, right? He's just like, you didn't need me. Maybe Draymond, Steph, Clay, all get in. All the Hamptons fives, they go back to the Hamptons, and they're just like, we need you, KD. They like beg, but I don't know. He needs to leave though. I really hope him and like all of NBA and just basketball fans in general would love if he left. Um, but yeah, anyways, going into the next topic, the Brooklyn Nets this week traded away Alan Crabb's garbage contract with some draft picks to the Atlanta Hawks for Tyrion Prince and a second round 2021 pick. The Brooklyn picks include this year's first round selection, I think is like 18, 17, and a 2020 protected first round pick. So with this trade, it opens up two back slots for Brooklyn. And you probably saw that Stephen A. reported that Kyrie Irving is strongly considering signing there. Now, some people are saying that they will sign Irving and then give that other max slot to Russell. I just want to tell those people that they are stupid and wrong. So why would Sean Marks sign two ball-heavy point guards that don't play great defense and will probably eat away at each other's playing time? like they are point guards. You can, like, I guess you could, like with Devin Booker, he was a shooting guard, now he plays point guard. But like, I don't know, I'd rather have a shooting guard next to Kyrie than like D'Angelo Russell. I don't know. But anyways, the answer to that question is he won't sign two ball-heavy point guards. If they sign Kyrie, they will just let D'Angelo go. That's why he's like looking at 4 different teams already. But see, so he'll go, Kyrie will stay. But this is where it gets interesting to see who that second star would be. Like maybe KD backs out of the Knicks and goes to Brooklyn instead with Kyrie. Like it seems like they have a good friendship and it seems like they want to play with each other. But I don't see that happening. Like it almost seems like it's a done deal. Like Kevin Durant's going to the Knicks. And if Kyrie doesn't sign there, then KD is gonna talk to Kemba to hopefully try to get him to sign for his hometown team if Kyrie doesn't. So, but the other options for the Nets aren't that like high. So like Clay is absolutely signing with the Warriors. Like count him out. I don't think they would even offer Jimmy Butler a max just because he got like, I wouldn't say that series was super heated, but he did get kicked out for like against Jared Dudley for that altercation, which probably shouldn't have happened. But anyways, I don't think they offer Jimmy that. So now what? Like Tobias Harris, DeMarcus Cousins. Like I think this is a good If you get Kyrie, that's an upgrade from D'Angelo Russell, like no question. Um, but it's like that second star is going to be difficult. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Be a fun summer. Um, but yeah, that concludes this episode of the Snowflake Sports Podcast. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.